In order to begin to understand gender separation on the Earth plane, our mind must go back to pre-Earth conditions as you understand present Earth. Before our physical state of being, mankind was in an etheric condition of evolution and development. Ether is one current of Akasha. In our etheric condition, there were no sexual reproductive organs that allow for procreation. The sexual reproductive organs came much later. According to the esoteric cosmologies of Helena Blavatsky, Theosophy, and Rudolf Steiner, Anthroposophy, the early etheric human forms procreated asexually, primarily through methods analogous to cell division and plant growth. Because these beings possessed etheric energy bodies rather than dense physical ones, they did not have reproductive organs or distinct genders. Instead, they reproduced by extruding or splitting off parts of their own substance. Here is the breakdown of the specific methods described by both Blavatsky and Steiner, progressing through the early evolutionary epochs. Root races. 1. Fission, the first root race, Polarian. In the earliest stage, the human form was a non-physical, cloud-like etheric entity. Blavatsky describes their method of reproduction as fission, similar to how a single-celled amoeba divides today. The process. The etheric form would simply divide into two equal halves. Each half would grow to become a full-sized entity. Blavatsky's term. She refers to these beings as the self-born because they did not require parents in the biological sense. They generated their offspring directly from their own bodies. 2. Budding and exudation. The second root race, Hyperborean. As the Earth and human forms densified slightly, though still not solid matter, the method shifted to budding. The process. A small portion of the parent's etheric body would swell and bud off. This extruded portion would eventually separate and grow into a new individual, similar to how certain plants or sea anemones reproduce. The sweat-born. Blavatsky and Steiner both use the peculiar term sweat-born to describe this phase. This refers to a vital fluid or bead of etheric substance that would ooze or exude from the parent's pores, surface, coalesce, and eventually detach to form a new being. 3. The egg-born. Early third root race, Lemurian. Before the separation into male and female, the sweat-born method evolved into the egg-born. The process. The extruded sweat, or vital drop, began to develop a harder outer shell for protection, a soft, egg-like sphere. The fetus would mature inside this external, etheric egg and eventually emerge. Androgyny. These beings were hermaphroditic or androgynous. A single individual contained the potential for both sexes and reproduced without a partner. 4. The separation, late Lemurian. According to Steiner, the transition to sexual reproduction was a cosmic trade-off. The trade-off. In the early etheric stages, the human being used tremendous creative life force to reproduce asexually. To evolve the capacity for thought and build a physical brain, half of this creative force had to be turned inward. The split. Consequently, the single human form could no longer retain both reproductive polarities. The body split or specialized. One form retained the creative power, female, and the other retained the generative power, male. This forced the two halves to reunite externally to create life, ending the era of the etheric, self-reproducing androgen. Currently, the human being is still procreating via the male and female reproductive organs. Turning the page back, our cells in our bodies still reproduce the ancient, archaic way, by splitting. This is a throwback to our earlier times. Procreation between man and woman will change. And actually, it is changing already, as everything shifts and transitions into further refinements. Think of a caterpillar. A caterpillar eventually, if it makes it through the impediments and challenges of life, will transform itself into a being with hardly any resemblance to its former self. So too will mankind transform itself through rounds, chains, cycles, root races, trials, free will, and conquering the material plane and all its trappings. Our destination is Atman, or Spirit Man, but this is a long ways off into our future. The proverbial end of the world is not set to take place anytime soon. However, there will be adjustments. These adjustments are such subjects as the collapse of empires to be replaced by another empire, the continual expansion of human consciousness, the transitioning of the flesh and bone physical material body will slowly begin to take on etheric traits as we did have. This is our slow, steady climb back to spirit from where we originally manifested. It is written that flesh and blood cannot enter into the kingdoms of heaven. Why is this? This is a very profound statement. Let's examine. Can a fish live out of water? Can mankind live beneath the waves of the sea? Of course not. A fish needs a fish environment. Mankind needs an environment suitable for its life. Flesh and blood of mankind is the same. Flesh and blood cannot function or live in an etheric realm. Therefore, transitioning must take place. As we transition and evolve further, you may experience several changes taking place with you and within your physiology and consciousness. I will discuss these in a later video.